Today we're talking to Dr. Joanne Yaffe, a professor in the College of Social Work and an adjunct professor in the Department of Psychiatry at the University of Utah. Thank you for being here, Jo.
Thank you.
You and a multidisciplinary committee of highly regarded experts spent much of the last year working with the national academies on a study examining eyewitness identification in criminal cases. Then in October, the committee released a new report recommending best practices in this area. So why was it important that the report be multidisciplinary, and what sort of challenges and opportunities did that present?
The National Academy of Sciences was actually set up to instruct other kinds of services of the government in how to integrate the findings of science. And so it was really important to bring social scientists, basic scientists like neuroscientists, together with law enforcement people, judges, prosecutors, and so on, to be able to understand what is an increasingly important problem in our judicial system.
All right. Well, so what are some of the problems with the current system of eyewitness identification?
There are lots of problems. They're in the popular press. One of the biggest problems is that of erroneous identification. That is, that some 316 people have been identified by the Innocence Project, which is a national advocacy organization, on the basis of DNA evidence as having been falsely convicted.
Wow.
So they were, some 70%, maybe more than that, were convicted on the basis primarily of eyewitness identification, and then DNA evidence actually found them to be innocent. So eyewitness identification, which is a pretty important tool in criminal prosecution, often turns out to be wrong.
Wow.
That's the problem.
Okay, well, so then what can we do to make certain eyewitness identification convicts the guilty and exonerates the innocent?
Well, you know, I wish we could, but we can't really do that. There's been a lot of jurisdictions that have tried to implement some best practices, but this is not, it's been spotty. It's not been supported. People have not been well trained, and so on and so forth. Some of the things that we recommend in this is the use of blinded procedures. That is, the people who are administering photo arrays for eyewitness identification aren't aware of who the suspect really is in a photo lineup, or they're prevented from seeing who the eyewitness is seeing, so that they can't transmit, even unintentionally, a nostril flare, an eyebrow raise, to indicate that they think that that person got the right person. We also want people to use standardized instructions, so that you read from instructions on how to do the identification process. And then witnesses are not getting suggestive language in the eyewitness process. And third, we want to encourage people doing investigations to ask immediately for any confidence statements in terms of how confident are you that you just identified the right person, and that be recorded at the time of initial identification. Because confidence level can change over time, just as memory can change over time. That's the really important thing to remember.
That makes sense. And it sounds like you have a lot more information about this, so thank you so much for taking some time to share just a little bit of this research. We appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, really.